In 1947, they did an experiment and discovered something horrifying about the lack of sleep. So we're gonna test this by actually spending 50 hours awake in this isolated cabin to see if we actually go insane by the end of this. We arrived in the cabin after being awake for 6 hours, and this is where everything begins. Apparently, one thing that happens after long enough without sleep is it lowers your reaction time and ability to think, just like getting drunk. Right now, we've only been here for a few hours, so we're not tired yet. But the first thing that we need to do is test our reaction time and see if it changes later. So we were gonna measure our reaction time each day. When this red screen turns green, we have to tap it as fast as possible. The smaller the number, the better. I got 261 milliseconds and Paul got 302. Now obviously, the first few hours were pretty easy. We made dinner, got some work done, and then hung out playing some games. But as the night went on, we knew that in order to feel awake, we would need to find some more creative ways to distract ourselves. We're now at the 12-hour mark, and I've connected Wii. So, to pass the time, we're gonna have an extreme Mario Kart battle.
Stakes are, last place has to go outside barefoot.
You guys down?
Yeah, sure.
We found a few things to do to keep us entertained. Right now, I'm just editing a quick video, and I think Paul's making us dinner. Thanks, Paul.
Just making tacos to pass the time.
Okay, what Paul doesn't know is I actually have a secret to help me stay up for even longer.
Tyler doesn't know that I have this, but I actually brought a secret weapon to help me stay up longer.
This is pre-workout, and it contains a ton of caffeine. And I figure if I just make myself a little drink, it should make it easier for me to stay awake.
Pre-workout, baby.
Okay, so right now it's around 2 a.m., which means I've been awake for about 16 hours. I decided to explore the cabin a little bit, and I found something interesting. Around 2 a.m., we found a hidden crawl space after searching around the cabin. I'm gonna go explore it. Let's see. Whoa. Oh, I almost fell. Oh, it's big. Whoa. Sorry. Full HD TV.
This is massive.
Okay, wait, this is spooky though. This gives me an idea. You wanna watch a horror movie?
Yeah, let's watch a horror movie.
After checking it out, we decided to do something that would potentially scare us more and keep us awake. So, we turned on a horror movie. Now throughout this, not only do we want to see what happens to us as more time goes by, but Paul and I also wanted to compete to see who can stay awake the longest. Eventually, as it got later, Paul and I found a perfect way to keep ourselves entertained and awake.
It's 4 a.m. and I'm starting to get tired, but I have a lot of caffeine in me, so I'm still buzzing from that.
It's now past 4 a.m. I'm just chilling here with Paul. Honestly, I feel super tired, but got a little something to help me through. We played video games from 4 in the morning until the sun rose. And by this point, we were definitely feeling tired, but nowhere close to what was to come.
I'm starting to feel behind my eyes, the tiredness. Other than that, I'm pretty much good. I think I'll make it to the morning.
Now this feels like a good time to talk about the actual experiment that was conducted in 1947. Now frankly, it's more of an urban legend, but very interesting nonetheless, and involves several patients being locked in a room and forced to stay awake. To make sure they stayed awake, they filled the room with a special gas to make sure that there was no way for them to fall asleep, even if they wanted to. Now the people in the experiment were awake for several days, a lot longer than we would be pushing ourselves simply because of what happened and how dangerous this could be if pushed too far. However, only around the 30-hour mark they began to hallucinate, seeing things that weren't there and hearing sounds only in their head. At the end of the experiment though is when not only did they start to feel separated from reality, but it was like a whole other side of them had emerged in the way that they acted, described in the experiment as an inherent evil inside the human mind that is kept in check by the act of sleeping.
It's 6 a.m. and we're almost through the night.
Alright, it's now 8:30 a.m., so it's almost been 24 hours, and I'm really starting to feel like I just can't think.
But first night, 2 more to go.
Now at this point, Paul and I had already made it to the 24-hour mark, and we found a couple things that made it much easier to stay awake. For one, once the sun came up, it felt much easier in general. However, I found forcing yourself to exercise made the process a lot easier. I had to spike energy, so I decided to go on a run. It's quite cold out, but it definitely is waking me up. But I know this challenge is gonna get a lot harder because I have something else planned today that potentially will drive me insane. We tested our reaction time again, and I noticed it was a bit worse, but figured it would still change a lot throughout the remaining hours. That was worse than yesterday. But to pass the time, we also played a game of chess. Now, chess uses a lot of mental energy, so I noticed a huge decrease in my skill level by this point in the challenge. However, to take it to the next level, I decided to try another experiment on myself while already being sleep deprived. What you're about to hear is a sound called shepherd's tone, which apparently can drive people insane if you listen to it long enough. So I'm gonna spend the next 24 hours listening to it non-stop. What you are listening right now is called shepherd's tone. It sounds like it's consistently falling, and there's a rumor that if you listen to it for long enough, it could drive someone insane. So, for the next 24 hours, I would be listening to shepherd's tone on top of trying to stay awake.
We're about 33 hours in, which is a lot longer than I've ever been awake for. I'm starting to feel weird. I just explained to Tyler, it's almost like a disconnect from reality. My eyes are just really heavy.
The first few hours were fine. I just had it blasting on a speaker throughout the cabin, but once Paul got annoyed, I decided to switch it to an earbud. The rest of the day went by as normal, but come the second night, this is where things started to get crazy. By this point, both Paul and I were incredibly exhausted. We turned on some movies to try and distract myself, but I found myself quickly zoning out of them. All I wanted to do was sleep.
Right now it feels like my head is like really big and I'm like kind of airy. I'm looking around and everything kind of looks funny and different.
Around midnight, I came up with a strategy to keep myself awake. Every time I noticed myself start to feel tired, I got up and did several jumping jacks to wake myself back up. And since around this time we were feeling so slow, we decided to test our reaction time again, and this is where we saw a very noticeable difference.
Yeah, it's definitely got down. I feel it. Especially this one. It hurts quite a bit. It's keeping my eyes open for this long.
We constantly had a movie playing in the background to keep ourselves entertained, but at this point, around the 40-hour mark, is where I started to see things.
I'm exhausted and I'm sitting here watching a movie. I kind of feel myself, I'm like starting to nod off and I can't allow myself to fall asleep. So I'm kind of just like trying to keep my eyes open. And I look over to my right. I mean, maybe it was like some sort of reflection or something, but it looks like car headlights pulling up through the window. And I look over and there's no window. It's a wall. There's no car headlights. It's just really weird. I'm sitting here, I'm trying to watch the movie and my eyes are just kind of like starting to like unfocus and shift around as if there's like rapid eye movement. I'm so tired. I can tell I really want to fall asleep, but I'm also really curious to see what happens. And this music, this shepherd's tone, it's not terrible. I'm not finding it very annoying or anything, but it's got this really weird ambience to it that just seems to make myself want to fall asleep even more. So we'll see what happens.
I also noticed myself starting to fall asleep multiple times, and it became very hard to stay awake. Even if my eyes were open, I would notice them shaking around sometimes as I started to drift off.
Tyler keeps on closing his eyes, laying down like that. Tyler, gotta stay awake, buddy.
Paul wasn't hallucinating at this time, but seemed incredibly tired and said he felt like he wasn't in reality anymore.
You seeing stuff?
Well, the feeling is like...
I'm going through so much stuff right now. I agree, it feels weird, but I'm in a lot of pain.
So, we're like 46 hours in now, and both me and Tyler are just done with this. Like, we just don't want to do it anymore. My eye hurts. It's like really red. Tyler's throat hurts. Thinks he's getting sick, so we're in rough condition. But we're gonna see it through. Got to see it through. Right, Tyler?
Before I started, I had a little bit of a throat cold, and so naturally this might not have been the best idea, but now, after over 40 hours of being awake, it really hurts. It hurts to swallow. I've been taking some cough drops to make myself feel better, but we'll see if it gets any better or worse. It's not gonna get better.
We spent the next few hours playing games and trying to stay awake, but as the sun rose and right before the 50-hour mark, you can see I finally ended up falling asleep, despite trying to stay awake. However, Paul managed to stay up.
So it's like 8 a.m. I lasted the whole night, but Tyler Satari passed out on the sofa. But I see he still has his headphone in. I kind of want to check something. Is he still listening to Shepherd's Tone? Oh my god, he was still listening to Shepherd's Tone. That's crazy.
I slept for about 4 to 5 hours, then woke back up because there was still one more thing that I wanted to try. We let the entire day pass by.
Finding it really hard to keep going because I see Tyler sleeping behind me, and then I'm just here and my eye freaking hurts. I really just want to sleep.
Good morning, Paul. How are you feeling?
I'm awake.
You are?
Yeah.
You look tired.
I'm quite tired. Now I've been awake for 52 hours straight, and I just wanted to show something because it's kind of like my party trick. I can do it no matter what state I'm in. So I'm really tired, but even like this, I can still go like that, and it's really not a big deal.
It's now been 24 hours since I started listening to Shepherd's Tone, so I don't have to listen to it anymore. It wasn't difficult to listen to for that time, but it did give me some really weird vibe, especially towards the end of the night, right before I went to bed.
We were gonna try the final experiment, which is designed to make the average person hallucinate in just a few minutes.
Paul, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Not really. I'm actually really tired, and I have a hard time processing anything in my brain.
It's like he's drunk. He's so tired.
This is called the Gonsfield experiment. You take a ping pong ball, cut it in half, and put both halves over your eyes. With them over your eyes, you look into a red light and listen to loud static. This works by essentially putting the body into a state of sensory deprivation where your mind will try to compensate by creating auditory and visual hallucinations after just 5 to 7 minutes. It took me a bit longer, but after around 15 minutes, I would occasionally see black dots circling around my eyes and heard a very prominent, high-pitched buzzing sound. I kept going for 30 minutes, forcing myself to stay awake and experience the hallucinations, but this was truly a crazy experience where it felt like it was so out of touch from reality.
How are you feeling?
I think hallucinating a little bit. I would see like lights kind of in the distance and movement, and I heard that like tone earlier. I don't hear it anymore, but I heard a couple things. But that was really interesting.
Being exhausted and sensory deprived, but now I was curious to see what would happen to Paul, who had been awake for over 60 hours by this point.
You ready?
Yeah, I feel like I'm just gonna fall asleep. I don't think I'm gonna hallucinate. I'm just gonna pass out.
He put the ping pong balls over his eyes, lay down, and after just 10 minutes,
How you feeling? You awake? Shocking. After 61 hours, Paul finally fell asleep.